my friend David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and it's a new month here on Learn Stage Lighting. That means a new playlist here on YouTube, new videos, and this month we're going to be putting a focus on, and we're starting with this video, on designing your lighting rig. So the basic gist probably came from a comment to someone, that someone mentioned to me at some point, which said, hey, when you, David, are laying out a lighting rig, when you're thinking through, maybe you've got a pile of equipment, maybe you've got a budget, an existing venue, whatever. What do you think about when you're going to lay this stuff out in order to get the very best design? In order to make it so that you use your stuff in the most efficient way and get the best show out of what you got. And I thought, hey, that's a good idea. Let's make a series out of it. And so that's what we're going to do. First video is this one. So I want to talk about the big picture. Okay. So even before we talk about lights, I'm here in the visualizer as well as on the screen here. Before we even talk about lights themselves, we've got to talk about positions of light. Now, I realize that there are a lot of you out there, and everybody's got a different situation. Some of you are on a permanent install. Maybe you've got fixed lighting positions, but more on that in a second. Some of you are fully portable. Maybe you're playing small restaurants, clubs, etc. There's a stage in the corner, and you've got to put stuff on stands on the ground. I don't know what your situation is, but I want to just demonstrate to you in this video how to find the right angles and the right place overall to put lights. So if you've watched me here before and you've seen maybe my video on how to create an awesome even wash of stage light, we'll feature it here on YouTube, then you'll know that a setup like I'm looking at here on the computer is what I usually go for front light. Where when I look at my person on stage, the front light is 45 degrees up, okay, in the vertical realm. And when I look at them from overhead, oh, we lost him. There he is. When we look at it from overhead, it's a little bit harder to see, and this is a band rig, so it's not perfect. But two front lights are able to hit the guy from about 45 degrees horizontally as well. And when we do that, what we get is a well-lit person who doesn't have shadows or funkiness on their eyes, who doesn't have a lot of light on the backdrop, and just generally looks great, okay? And so, of course, my first inclination is, if there's any way for you to get a lighting position, a truss, a balcony rail, whatever, at that angle, about 45 degrees up and out, that's the best place to go. But what about when you can't do that, okay? That's when you've got a couple options. If it's like a band or a music thing, then I'm usually going to go to the corners of stage. And I'm going to put a stand or a short truss tower, like a 10-foot stick of truss, and put the lights on there. If there's any way to get even just a few feet out in front, maybe there's sidewalls and you can, be out as far as this truss, 10 or 15 feet out against a sidewall. That can give you a better angle as well, as long as the room's not very wide. Okay. So that's kind of the first lighting position I always look at is front light. I don't care if it's a band, a church, a DJ theater. The front light is the most important angle of light, bar none. It's what allows you to see the person on stage, communicate, see what they're doing, be able to see what they're communicating. That's why we're there. That's what the show or service is for. Okay. Now, what do we do with other lighting positions? Well, in its most simplistic form, when I go to looking out to lay out lights, I lay out my front light first every time. Then I go ahead and lay out my back light, the lights behind the band or stage. Okay? Backlight's going to have a couple forms. The best looking first and usual go-to method is to get it nice and high and behind the band. This angle is going to be steeper than your front light generally. If it's as shallow as 45, you're going to be putting lights in everybody's eyes in the front few rows or more, and that gets annoying. Okay, so when we're laying out a lighting position, I want to go up in the air if I can, and I want to go at a fairly steepish angle there as well. All right, and so that's what we're going to do there. So get that going. Then we go ahead and we think about, other effect lighting, because front light, when we're talking about lighting, front light is key. Front light is the number one. Backlight is the number two, because it allows us to get that visual separation from the backdrop. Okay. And if you've watched here before, you've heard me say this stuff. If not, then you've learned something new today. This is what allows us to separate that person from the void of darkness or whatever might be behind them. I've got other lights behind me, right, in my studio here. And so front light and backlight are the most important. Where do I go from there? Usually the easiest and kind of best use of your stage and your budget is to start putting some stuff on the ground like I have here, right? I've got these different lights on the ground right here, just literally up on some road cases or some crates or whatever. And then they're good to go. Okay. There are multiple schools of thought on how to do this depending on what kind of show you're doing, what your stage looks like, etc. One of my favorite layouts for if I have a couple moving head lights, spots or washes or what have you, is instead of going direct behind like this, I'll actually take these guys and bring them to the front corners or the side. And when I bring those lights to the side, what that does, I'll just do it live here. Not very well. When I bring these lights to the side here, and we're just really talking about the position of the light, not the actual specific, hey, this is the light I would use kind of stuff. We'll get into that later. But when we get the lights onto the side here, and I'm doing a terrible job of CAD right now, but when we get them to the side, oh my goodness, hold on. When we get them to the side like this, that allows us to do a couple things. It can kind of be a best of both worlds type of angle where we're able to get the lights coming so that they're able to do a cool backlight type effect over the stage. We're able to shoot them that direction if they're moving lights, but we can also use them to light sideways, light the band. We can also use them to blind the audience at times that we need that. And so that's kind of my next go-to as well. And last but not least, once I've kind of laid out the basic angles of light, I've taken care of most of my stuff, I look at the area behind the stage and say, okay, how can I fill that up with something interesting? In this case, for example, I'll actually pop over and turn these guys on over here in Onyx. They're not very bright. I've got a bunch of pars, just LED pars. I've done this before with the most inexpensive par I could find. And at the time, whatever the rental place has or whatnot. And putting those behind the band can really fill that void. For example, we could take that and say we're in the middle of a show. We go ahead and we'll just move this guy over here. We turn off the fixtures in the back. Or we break the computer. One of the two. So we turn off all the fixtures in the back. And now we've got an alternate look coming from behind. So that's totally something you can do as well. Really the point of this video and the point I want to strive home is this stuff isn't rocket science. When it comes to laying out your rig and when you're looking at a drawing or thinking through in your head how you're going to lay out this next show, service, sermon series, whatever, it's really important to think about the general angles of light first that you're going to need. And to really keep it simple, some great front light, some great backlight, and a little bit of effects lighting can go a really long way. And so if you've enjoyed this, give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe here. And for more, check us out at learnstagelighting.com and grab my free guide. If you're new to lighting, if you haven't done a lot before, I want to get you started with your specific type of lighting with a free guide over at learnstagelighting.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys on the site.